Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Siddhanta Balya Chitte Nakara Alash Iha Hoite Krishna Lage Surira Manash. A sincere student should not neglect the discussion of such discussions, such conclusions, considering them controversial, for such discussions strengthen the mind. Thus one's mind becomes attached to Sri Krishna. Purport. There are many students who, in spite of reading the Bhagavad Gita, misunderstand Krishna because of imperfect knowledge and conclude him to be an ordinary historical personality. This one must not do. One should be particularly careful to understand the truth about Krishna. If because of laziness one does not come to know Krishna conclusively, one will be misguided about the cult of devotion, like those who declare themselves advanced devotees and imitate the transcendental symptoms sometimes observed in liberated souls. Although the use of thoughts and arguments is a most suitable process for inducing an uninitiated person to become a devotee, neophytes in devotional service must always alertly understand Krishna through the vision of the revealed scriptures, the bona fide devotees and the spiritual master. Unless one hears about Sri Krishna from such authorities, one cannot make advancement in devotion to Sri Krishna. The revealed scriptures mention 9 means of attaining devotional service, of which the first and foremost is hearing from authority. The seed of devotion cannot sprout unless watered by the process of hearing and chanting. One should submissively receive the transcendental messages from spiritually advanced sources and chant the very same messages for one's own benefit as well as the benefit of one's audience. When Brahma described the situation of pure devotees from the culture of empiric philosophy and fruitive actions, he recommended the process of hearing from persons who are on the path of devotion. Following in the footsteps of such liberated souls who are able to vibrate real transcendental sound can lead one to the highest stage of devotion, and thus one can become a Mahabhagavat. From the teachings of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Sanatana Goswami, we learn Shastra Jukte Shunipun Drida Shraddhaja Uttamadhikari She Taraye Shangsha. A person who is expert in understanding the conclusion of the revealed scriptures and who fully surrenders to the cause of the Lord is actually able to deliver others from the clutches of material existence. Srila Rupa Goswami in his Upadeshamrita advises that to make rapid advancement in the cult of devotional service, one should be very active and should persevere in executing the duties specified in the revealed scriptures and confirmed by the spiritual master. Accepting the path of liberated souls and the association of pure devotees enriches such activities. Imitation devotees who wish to advertise themselves as elevated Vaishnavas and who therefore imitate the previous acharyas but do not follow them in principle are condemned in the words of Srimad Bhagavatam as stone-hearted. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has commented on their stone-hearted condition as follows: Bahirashru pulakayo satorapi yad dridhayam navikriyeta tad ashmasaram iti kanisht adhikarinam eva ashru pulokade matvepi ashmasaram hridayatea nindaisha. Those who shed tears by practice but whose hearts have not changed are to be known as stone-hearted devotees of the lowest grade. Their imitation crying induced by artificial practice is always condemned. The desired change of heart referred to above is visible in the reluctance to do anything not congenial to the devotional way. To create such a change of heart, conclusive discussion about Sri Krishna and his potencies is absolutely necessary. False devotees may think that simply shedding tears will lead one to the transcendental plane, even if one has not had a factual change in heart. But such a practice is useless if there is no transcendental realization. False devotees lacking the conclusion of transcendental knowledge think that artificially shedding tears will deliver them. Similarly, other false devotees think that studying books of the previous acharyas is unadvisable, like studying dry empiric philosophies. But Srila Jiva Goswami, following the previous acharyas, has inculcated the conclusions of the scriptures in these 6 theses called the Shat Shandarbhas. False devotees who have very little knowledge of such conclusions fail to achieve pure devotion for want of zeal in accepting the favorable directions for devotional service given by self-realized devotees. Such false devotees are like impersonalists, who also consider devotional service no better than ordinary fruitive actions. Siddhanta balya chitte nakara alash, iha hoite krishna lage surira manash. This is a very important statement of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, which is essential for our progress in Krishna consciousness. There is no progress unless one accepts this process of not being lazy in the matter of understanding what is Siddhanta, what is the conclusion of Shastra, what is the point to be understood from Shastra. In the purport, which follows the purport of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Anubhasha, there's much discussion of false devotees who shed tears and falsely show ecstatic symptoms. But it's not real. It's a show. It's a strange thing a strange phenomena that in Bengal, where the cult of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has been widely spread, so people have heard the descriptions of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's ecstasy. So that is, where the cult is widely spread, then to be a devotee is quite common, and one is considered a better devotee. There's Kanishta, Madhyam and Uttam stages of devotion. Kanishta means beginning stage or not very advanced stage. Then Madhyam means middle stage, and Uttam means topmost stage. So in materialistic consciousness, everyone wants to show I'm the best. So when materialistic consciousness is brought into devotional service, then we like to show I'm the best. So some falling on the ground, tears from the eyes, and people think, oh, very advanced devotee. And because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stressed so much that humility is necessary for a Vaishnava, therefore many people, they make a show of being humble so that people will praise that you're a great devotee. It's all done for the sake of praise. That actually they're not at all humble, they want to be praised, but their show is there. We don't see much of this in the modern Krishna conscious movement spread all over the world. We don't have many cases of devotees imitating ecstatic symptoms. But the point is still there, that the change of heart, Prabhupada uses this term, change of heart is required. And what is this change of heart? The change of heart is visible in the reluctance to do anything not congenial to the devotional way. I was discussing this yesterday, how some devotees, I guess you could say, those who are Kanishta Adhikari, but they're almost in the platform of Matiya na Krishna, that they don't want to be Krishna conscious. They're determined not to be. Say that, well, it's alright whatever you do. It's alright if you as long as you're initiated and you're following the four regulative principles just about. Maybe, we hope so. At least that no one sees if you're not following them. Then you're a devotee. And you shouldn't judge, like the Sahajiyas in Bengali say that you should, a big tulsi leaf and a small tulsi leaf, they're just as pure. So whether you're following all the rules or not all the rules, it's all the same. It's not at all. What's the similarity? What is the similar? How do the two things link? I don't follow that, but that's an example they give. So nowadays in the Western world, they've introduced this idea: don't be judgmental. You shouldn't judge anyone. Whatever you do, whatever anyone else does, you don't judge. Just as long as no one does any harm to anyone else, then don't judge. And if they run off with someone else's wife, it's their private affair. It's nothing. Even if he's devoted. This is all modern ideas. This is not Vedic culture. Vedic culture is Yashastra vidimutrija vartate kamakarataha nasa siddhim avapnoti nasukam naparamgatim. That one cannot attain any perfection or happiness. What is it? Or the supreme destination, if one acts whimsically, not according to the Shastra. Therefore, tasmat shastram pramanante karya vidhanat. That's all. Gyatva shastram vidhanotam karya miharasi. Therefore, one knowing what is the Shastra, one should act accordingly within this world. So Shastra means that there's Shastra Vidhi. What are the rules and regulations of Shastra? That is one level of understanding Shastra. And here, even more important, to understand what is Siddhanta. Siddhanta means why. The answer to the question why. Why? What's everything all about? What is reality? What are we doing here? Why is there suffering? How to get free? The answer, that is Siddhanta. And Bhakti Siddhanta is to understand Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and we are all His servants, and we are supposed to serve Him. Anukulyasya sankalpa pratikulyasya varjana. Everything should be done for His satisfaction, and all activities should be undertaken that are favorable for advancing in devotional life, and all thoughts, activities, words which are unfavorable to that are to be given up. That is and accepting this principle is the change of heart. So, if one doesn't have that change of heart, then in the name of bhakti, he'll introduce an upasiddhanta, or not bhakti siddhanta, not the actual siddhanta or proper understanding, but upasiddhanta, that, well, everything's okay, whatever you do, it's all alright, because Krishna loves his devotees. Krishna is very merciful. In Bengal, if you ask people, well, you're supposed to be a devotee. It's not uncommon in Bengal that people are initiated by a family guru, and they have neck beads and they tilak and they chant, in kirtan, and they'll be jumping up and down very ecstatically, and then they'll go home and eat fish. They might even offer it. It depends which bogus sampradaya they're in. Mostly they have separate kitchens. One for the deities and one for the family, because they know Krishna doesn't eat fish. And there is one sampradaya that offers fish with tulsi, but mostly they keep a separate kitchen because, they're more, The richer people, they have separate kitchen. They have separate kitchens. You may say, I'm vegetarian, mostly. Just little fish. Or sometimes they say, never eat any mutton, chicken, eggs, nothing. They don't mention fish. So, but then they to justify their sense gratification, they change the philosophy somewhat. It's a lack of sincerity to do so, because they want to be considered devotees, or they maybe have some culturally they're brought up in that culture, they feel like that for whatever reason, they may have some kind of attraction to Krishna consciousness. At the same time, they're not serious to surrender to Krishna, so they invent some other philosophy. And if one is not serious to understand Krishna, then he cannot understand this philosophy. It's not possible. If you have anya abhilash, if one is cultivating other desires than those to surrender to Krishna, it is not possible. You may think you understand, you can even argue that yes, it should be like this. And they'll make so many arguments that yes, we have to eat chocolate because time, place and circumstance, for instance. Why don't you just say, I'm in Maya, and get out of it? It's better to say, I'm in, yes, it's wrong, and I'm in Maya. Like you were saying, they're honest, they're saying we eat chocolate. But that's not a good platform. To be honest. Yes, I'm in Maya, and I eat chocolate. And I'm going to go on being in Maya. I'm determined. I shall be in Maya. Matena Krishne Paratasvatova. Such people, they will not become Krishna conscious by their own efforts, because they've decided, I'm going to be not Krishna conscious, or partially Krishna conscious, which is not really Krishna conscious. Or no one shall convince me, I'm determined, I don't care what anyone says, I'm just going to do what I like. And so here in India you often hear people say that, well, I will take up bhakti when Krishna tells me. He's already telling you, you rascal, through Bhagavad Gita. You want him to come and personally tell you? Who do you think you are? When Krishna inspires me. Now, these are all rascal interpretations. Sometimes I've just been talking about people who are not practicing very strictly. And they make their somewhat devotees, as Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur says, they're kanishta adhikari, so they're somewhat devotees. But he also says, ashmasara hridayataya nindaisha, their stone-heartedness is abominable, condemned, Prabhupada says, condemned. Tadashmasaram hridayam batedam nagrihyamana hanama uchai. That even after chanting the holy names, their heart doesn't change. The heart remains hard. It doesn't become soft. The heart remains hard. It means it remains attached to pratikul, that which is against our own self-interest, that which is against the principle of devotional service. So that's one kind of kanishta adhikari. Another kind, you'll sometimes find people who are practicing very seriously, but their siddhanta, their understanding is quite wrong. Someone recently, I asked them to do some research for me in Vrindavan too. This book I've been writing, there's so much discussion of different upper sampradayas and this and that, so I sent someone to do some research in Vrindavan and to meet some group and what do they actually believe, because we're getting different reports. That was different. I sent you a Navadvip. That was a different one. So I got the report, well, they appear to be very serious sadhaks. They may be seriously following their sadhana, but it's based on misunderstanding, so it's not going to have the same result, just like we were reading. You get one result from activities from the culture of knowledge and a different result from the culture of nescience. Now I gave the example that you get one result from pouring petrol in the fire, another result from pouring smoke in the fire. But actually, this is more subtle, the culture of knowledge and the culture of nescience. So you may get a different result from doing the same thing also, depending on the consciousness with which it's done. Now, on the gross platform, that's not true. If you pour petrol in the fire, then it blazes up. But in the matter of spiritual matters, then what is the consciousness that we're doing? And that is most important. How we perform our bhakti, or how we approach Krishna, that Krishna reciprocates accordingly. Someone is offering fruit, flower, leaf and water to Krishna, and Krishna takes them back to Godhead. And someone else is doing that, and Krishna kills them. Jarasandha was worshipping Vishnu. But Krishna, when he personally came, he saw this, I'm worshipping Vishnu, shalagram, stone. When Krishna personally came, he hated him. So, where was his bhakti? He's worshipping Vishnu, but where's the bhakti? One temple I saw, in that temple they do every morning the Abhishek and Puja openly, so you can sit and watch it. So they had a big tray, they took all the shalagrams, they had so many shalagram shilas, put them on a tray and then poured them all in a bucket, just like a bunch of stones. Poured them all in the bucket with water and then just poured it out again, and like that, and let the water drain off, and that was their Abhishek. Just like you might some children playing with stones. And so it didn't seem to, we shouldn't judge. Actually, we should be careful in judging devotees, that's true, but at the same time, at least this much we could say, we would have been much more pleased to have seen if they'd taken each one individually and carefully given Abhishek and wiped the cloth nicely and put back carefully, rather than just pouring them. It's just some job to be done. So it may be that some people are practicing seriously, but if their understanding is wrong, then they're seriously cultivating a wrong understanding, and the result will not be the same. Because wrong understanding means that what is apasiddhanta? Apasiddhanta means that we're not doing everything for Krishna's pleasure. Bhakti means to act Hrishikena Hrishikesha Sevanam Bhakti Ruchate, to do everything for Krishna's pleasure. So if we have any desire to merge into Krishna, or enjoy Krishna, or enjoy at Krishna's expense, or have Krishna make arrangements for our personal enjoyment, then there's something wrong. And even though we may be performing bhakti, and we may be doing all the things, and even very strictly, and we may think that this is bhakti, but Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada has defined what is the process of bhakti, and that if we can understand that it's for Krishna's pleasure. Everything should be without any personal desire. It may be also that one is superficially performing bhakti, but is envious of devotees. So then again one's understanding is going to be wrong. So correct understanding. Correct, what do we mean by correct? What I say is correct? No, correct means what Krishna thinks is correct. or even more important, what the devotees of Krishna think is correct. Because Krishna is the Vishaya, he is the subject of love of Krishna. He's the subject of prem, he's the object of love. So the devotees, they are the heart of Krishna. Sadhunam hridayam mahyam sadhunam hridayam toham mad anyatena jananti naham tebyo managapi. Devotees are the heart of Krishna. They are in Krishna's heart, and Krishna's heart is his devotees. So they know what is pleasing to him and what isn't. So they guide. We may not know. We may think this is very pleasing to Krishna, but it may not be. It may be difficult to understand what is pleasing to Krishna. Just like Krishna was Mother Yashoda feeding Krishna. Mother Yashoda, then the milk is boiling over, so she puts him down. And Krishna is upset. Why did she put me down? But that is, if she hadn't put him down and had let the milk boil over, then that would have been less bhakti. In this case, Krishna was superficially not pleased. But because the milk also, she has to see that, how the milk is preserved for Krishna. So Krishna superficially is displeased. Mother Yashoda is chasing Krishna with a stick to beat him, and Krishna is apparently not pleased, but he's most pleased. So exactly what Krishna wants, that may be difficult to understand. Even there may be some subtle traces of Mayavad or Sahajiavad, and we find that among Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's personal associates, if Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was, so many people would come, I wrote some poem, I wrote something about Krishna, I want to read it to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but they'd have to go to Swarup Damodar first. And he could detect if there's something wrong. Maybe not all others could do that. There's that incident is described there in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. One poet came from Bengal and he made a drama about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, about Jagannath Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So he read the first verse and all the devotees said, well, that's very nice. And Swarup Damodar said, what do you mean by this? And so he said that, well, Jagannath is Brahman here in the form of wood, and he's within the wood, and he's the same as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Swarup Damodar, all the devotees saw it's very nice. Swarup Damodar pointed out, you don't have a correct understanding. It's influenced by Mayavad. He asked, what do you mean by this? Because he said, it could be interpreted another way, which is acceptable according to Bhakti Siddhanta. But most of the other devotees, they didn't catch that point. But Swarup Damodar did. So nothing could be, because Bhakti Siddhanta Viruddha Arasabhas Shunile Prabhur Chitte Nahoyurash. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was not pleased if he had to hear anything which was against Bhakti Siddhanta, the proper understanding of Bhakti. Bhakti Siddhanta Viruddha on Rasabhas, a distasteful mixing of rasas. So persons who are not expert in understanding bhakti, then they must make these mistakes, because unless one's heart is pure, and one is very expert in understanding all these things, then mistakes will be there. The tendency will be to mix the jararas, the mundane understanding of interactions, with the purely spiritual one. So, what is bhakti? That means to satisfy Krishna, but we need to be guided in that. People tend to think, well, bhakti is all feeling, and yes, it's true. Bhakti means feeling, but that feeling, it's not just something vague, it's specific. That's why that's why the Shastras are there, to guide us in activity, to act in such a way that is pleasing to Krishna. Now again, it's not just the activities, but the mentality that goes with it. But generally people, they just think, well, if it feels, it was a wonderful kirtan. I saw some photo of devotees there's a picture of them all dancing ecstatically in kirtan with all big smiles on their face, all with their backs to the deity. It was published in one magazine. So they were ecstatic, but they forgot Krishna, they're supposed to be singing for the deities, that He is the purpose. So they were thinking this is a wonderful kirtan, but was it praise of Krishna? Or did they have any consciousness of Krishna? They might have been enjoying the jumping up and down and the musical beats, and it was all very nice, but the other thing is they weren't thinking of Krishna, who was standing right there having nice darshan of their backs, which is of course offensive. So we may see there at the back of our Krishna Balaram temple guest house in Vrindavan, there's an ashram where for many years before that temple was built, they'd been doing non-stop kirtan 24 hours a day for so many years. But what is that? The very kirtan, it's been made up by someone as a replacement for the Maha Mantra. And the saying that the Maha Mantra shouldn't be chanted loudly, which is then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to spread the loud chanting of the Maha Mantra, and they say it shouldn't be chanted loudly, so therefore we invented another one. So, how can it be pleasing? They may be seriously practicing. They'll be in the middle of the night chanting loudly and all through the night. But we find there are so many. That's also, you'll find people chanting Sitaram, Ram Nam, Ram Dhun, and they'll go on chanting and chanting. But then, if you discuss with them, you'll find they're Mayavadis. Just like we find this when Raghunath Bhatta was coming from Varanasi to Puri, one Ram Bhakta accompanied him, and he was always chanting the name of Ram non-stop. But then when he reached Puri, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was cold towards him. He didn't welcome him, because he understood that actually by chanting Ram, 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 he's wanting to merge into the existence of Ram. He has no actual bhakti. So, Bhakti Siddhanta, what is it? Siddhanta, Balaya, Chitte Nakaro Alash, Eha Hoite Krishna Lage, Surira Manosh. This is also the verse from Srimad Bhagavatam in this regard. What is that? Tachchadadhana Muneyo Jnana Vairagya Yuktayo Pashyanti Atmani Chamanam Bhakta Bhaktya Shruta Grihitaya. The bhakti is to be understood through the teachings of Shastra. Tachchadadhana, those who are taking up devotional service, they should be faithful. Shradadhana Muneyo, they should have knowledge, renunciation, and they can see the Supreme Lord within their hearts by the process of bhakti, which is received through the Shastra. Otherwise, what's the Shastra for? The Nyayakas and Mimamsakas, they seem to think Shastra is just some kind of intellectual thing that you argue over. You establish a position, you break it, and then you bring another one, and it's intellectual fun. But no, Shastra's Krishna's communication to us, how we should live, how we should act. how is he to be understood? At the higher levels, Shastra describes Krishna directly. Venongvanantam aravinda dalaya taksham parhavatang savasitam buddhasundaranga kandarapakoti kamaniya vishesha shobham govindavadi purusham tamaham bhajami. Krishna is so beautiful, but that beauty cannot be appreciated by one who is still trying to enjoy the beauty of this material world. So Shastra guides us to purify our consciousness by the process of devotional service. And then we can appreciate Krishna, which is the perfection of life. We have to understand everything very clearly. Those who actually desire to serve Krishna, they will automatically be attracted to understanding Siddhanta properly. And those that don't, they'll be attracted to misunderstandings. Srila Prabhupada has given us his Prabhupada Bhaktivedanta purports, which if we actually read them, then that will be very powerful in purifying the heart. Because Prabhupada is speaking to us through these purposes. He's not just presenting a philosophical position, but he's speaking to us how we can accept this knowledge within our hearts and apply that in our lives. But even how to read those books, if we read the books with the wrong attitude, even Prabhupada's books, then we won't understand. If we read it as something, we may read it with the attitude that, well, I'm going to find out all the faults in this, and there's some people who do that. Sorry to say, some people who are determined to give Yamaraj a lot of work to do. They are very, very sinful people. There are people like that, and they make a big noise. This is wrong, this is right. I understood Sanskrit better. Or if we're reading it with the idea that okay, we want to be Krishna conscious. Let's find out the easiest way. Let's cut the corners. What's the minimum we have to do to be Krishna? We'll enjoy this world and enjoy the next one also. As long as we're here, let's enjoy ourselves, and then we'll also go to Krishna then. But then you won't go to Krishna, because if you're thinking of any way of enjoying this material world, then you'll have to come back to enjoy it. So the cultivating of the idea, I shall enjoy, this is Bhakti Siddhanta Viruddha. All endeavors, Krishnarte Akila Cheshta, all endeavors should be for Krishna's enjoyment only. There are a few sutras like this, terse statements, which everything is defined, but somehow we miss it or we misinterpret it. Yes, I'm doing everything for Krishna, so it's because I have this strong desire to eat chocolate, and so my mind will be more peaceful, then I can chant japa better if I eat 2 kilos of chocolate before chanting japa. So, in my case, you see, time, place and circumstance, it's required, it's important for me. I must do it. It would be against my duty not to eat 2 kilos of chocolate, because then my mind wouldn't be peaceful, and then I couldn't chant japa properly. So now I can chant japa very nicely, because now my mind is peaceful. Oh, and there was something on TV, right? So, it's leading a very busy life, and I don't have time for everything. So what to do? is I wanted to watch that program on TV. I don't have time. Okay, well what we'll do, we'll turn on the TV and I'll chant japa at the same time. That's all. Or we're watching and my hand is in the bead bag and it's going on. It's going on in my mind. I'm chanting in my mind. So many cheating. But we can't cheat Krishna. Krishna knows. So better try to understand clearly, follow properly. It's actually, Krishna consciousness is very clear, very simple, very straightforward, very blissful. But we have so many ways to avoid. The one way to go to Krishna is very easy. And the ways to avoid, we have to make so many excuses and reinterpretations, this, that. There's no need actually. I mean, what Prabhupada has given us is so clear and so straightforward. It's actually a lot easier just to follow it. You don't have to make so much mental somersaults and this and that. Hare Krishna. Any question, comment?
You mentioned chanting of different mantras, so
chanting of different mantras, invented mantras.
Yeah, right. So
not really mantras at all. But jingles, we can call them. Like on the TV, something comes.
So that's staying in Govardhan. I heard something.
Yeah, if you stay in Govardhan, you'll see so many funny things. No doubt. It's not as wacko as Bengal, but it's pretty wacko. Yeah. Then?
So, there are some people chanting like almost like old Mahamantra, Radhe Shyam, Radhe Shyam, Radhe Krishna. So is it something telling that's coming from
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Iti Shorashakam Nam Kali Kalma Shanashanam. First we should consider what is our eligibility to chant the name of Radha. No, our acharyas have not taught us to chant in this way. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught us to chant Mahamantra. Actually, the Gauriyas, they know who is Radha Krishna. Others, they don't have complete understanding. Modern Nimbaka Sampradaya is just an imitation of the Gauriya Sampradaya anyway. The original Sampradaya is, who knows what happened to that. Same as Vishnu Swami, Vallabh Sampradaya. Not the same, because they have a different upasana and upasya, worship, method of worship and goal of worship, but it's modern. It came up recently after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So many times you always ask, well, what about this? What about that? You can go there. What do you think of this? What do you think of that? There's millions of different varieties of people avoiding Krishna in various ways. So better we stick to that which what Krishna has very kindly sent us, Srila Prabhupada, pure devotee. That we accept as an axiom, and also just see how Prabhupada never said, you should follow me because I'm me, like Sai Baba or Ravi Shankar. I don't think they even get that far in philosophy as why they should follow. It's just all sentiment. But Prabhupada, he never said that you should follow me because I'm me, but he said you should follow because we're presenting, as Prabhupada writes in this purport, according to Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. The Shastra is that they just see what understanding is given. Do we find a higher theological principle than this anywhere, that everything should be everything should be for the satisfaction of Krishna. Actually, Lord Jesus is recorded as saying, "Thy will, not mine, be done." When they were going to, the night before he was to be crucified, he was praying, and then he knew this was going to happen. Then he prayed, "But thy will, not mine, be done." But the higher principle than that is that we don't have any separate will anyway. Not that there's God's desire and my desire, but alright, I submit to God's desire. But the higher principles, we don't have any other desire. Just our desire is non-different from His, whatever He wants of us, that's all. Or even that feeling might be there, but you have to see what philosophy, Siddhanta, this covers all areas of understanding, just like in mainstream Christianity. The crux of Christianity is that God came in human form and He died for 3 days. And He absolved us of all His sins. So, God died. It's a very, very strange idea. There are some Christians, they're considered unorthodox, who don't believe that Jesus is God. They're better, actually. And they say He's pointing towards God. So that's actually better, that's more correct. And they don't believe in the Eucharist. There's this idea in Catholicism. I don't think it's there in Protestantism, that they offer the bread and the wine, and that becomes the body and blood of Jesus. And then you eat it and drink it. It's really bizarre. Eat the body of Jesus, drink the blood, and people come up to you in America and say, "Are you bathed in the blood of Jesus?" And bizarre religion. So they may be very sincere and they may be very convinced, but it's from the Gita we can understand this is religion in the mode of ignorance. What is that? Ya dharmam dharmamitiva. What is that? Tamasavita. To consider religion to be irreligion, and irreligion to be religion, that's understanding in the mode of ignorance. So, anything else? Because often our devotees, they see someone who's, they're very good sadhus, they're very austere, they only eat once every 3 days, they're always chanting, but what's their understanding? That you have to see. If their understanding is that, for instance, that the Maha Mantra shouldn't be chanted loudly, that's actually envy, because the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave the Maha Mantra to deliver the whole universe, and then they invent some new mantra. So it seems that it might seem that they're great devotees, but actually what's their understanding? It's anti-devotional. It seems to be devotional. But then if we understand Siddhanta, then we can see it's against devotion. So Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he was so strong against untruth, or that which is not correct, incorrect understanding. He hated non-truth, he hated pretentiousness. Hare Krishna. Please read Srila Prabhupada's books and pray to Srila Prabhupada for the mercy to understand them. Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitete Koriya Aikya Ana Kariha Manayasha. This line is very important. What does that mean? Guru Mukha Padma Vakya? Who can say? Chitete Koriya Aikya Ana Kariha Manayasha. What does it mean?
The words coming from the first mouth of the spiritual master has to be taken into the heart, and there is no desire except that.
Made one with the heart. The words from the Lord actually is The words from the lotus mouth of the spiritual master, they're to be made one with the heart. That means nothing else there. Arna Korheyamanya, and not to